Hello everybody, my name is Troublemaker, and I'm doing all the units in the game. This is the final group that'll be doing the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. I believe that's the name, the People's Democratic Republic of Korea. North Korea, obviously. And in this time period, there are two different leaders, Kim Song-un, who is the part of their religion, and Kim Jong-il, who is the Daffy Duck looking type that they had for a while. So the North Koreans have, to this day, even in modern times, and they have one of the biggest armies in the world. They're renowned for their million-man army. So we're probably going to see a lot of units here from the North Koreans. This is their first unit. It's going to be an Infantry Command, which, given how low-tech the North Koreans are, this is very likely. As 5 ways of deploying, including 2 helicopters. Their helicopter command is just that, a simple helicopter. No gimmicks, no flush. They can't afford paint. They're Korean. That's a little racist of me, I'm sorry. This is a UAZ command jeep. You know, it's very similar to the Chinese one. Nothing special. Here's a YW701. 2 front armor, 2 side armor. You know, it's very similar to a lot of command armors that are like this. And it's just that you want to use this once. It's always 30 points more. It's got that extra 2 armor. And it's got 5 more strength. So it'll survive artillery. It's always better to choose the more armored one, in my humble opinion. A lot of people will choose to use these cheap jeeps, though, because they're generally in higher supply, and they're cheap. So here's the Cho on 110 CV. Would you believe that I read all the names of all these units before I did this? Would you believe that, given my pronunciations? This is the Korean command tank, and much like the Chinese and the South Koreans, they don't particularly have a very powerful command tank. It's got very, very low armor. It's probably not a good bang for your buck. But it is very heavily armored. It is 150 points, which is, you know, like 20 more points than this armor CV. And in that light, it would seem to be quite valuable, but given how the game works out, you want to use these big command tanks up front. And you want your best guys up front. And unfortunately, this is not, in terms of the bred for faction, going to be the best. And it's rather unfortunate. So here's your Mi-4 cargo. It's just a simple cargo helicopter. I believe that the Chinese, sorry, have something very, very similar to this. And there's also the ZIL-130 cargo, which is basically a clone of what the Chinese have. Moving on to our infantry category, which is vast. The Chinese and the North Koreans are definitely going to be the faction of ridiculous numbers of infantry. These are the band tank faggots. The faggot rocket, of course, is Russian. And that kind of makes sense considering how many army donations these guys get from Russia. You're going to see a lot of different technologies here. And I'm assuming band tank would mean anti. So an anti-tank faggot. Kind of makes sense. They're very cheap, 10 points. And they can come into a very high number of vehicles, including a Strela, which is your anti-air. So you might be able to get 2 for the price of 1, an anti-air unit and an anti-tank unit, by grabbing this particular combination. It says work in progress, so obviously nothing is set in stone. Maybe the vehicles are not either. Here is your Biban Chungpo, which are an anti-tank unit, and they have short range. So they do decent amounts of damage. 12 AP is considered to be quite high. These are your flanking guys. They will move behind enemy tanks, kill them very quickly, and then move on. You know, moderate amounts of uses and value. The small is one of these types, and they definitely got some good value. So we'll see how people use these in the actual meta whenever that develops. And you have 5 vehicles, including 1 Melmatutka, which is kind of interesting. You know, that's a very interesting choice here for the North Koreans. So we also have this Ba-chong-su, which are going to be your regular infantry. 10 points, going to be kind of comparable to your Motul Strelki, and a lot of the times it'll depend on numbers as well. 5 ways to deploy these, 5 options to put these in your cards, and they're all basically the same vehicle here, not too many options there. Now the North Koreans also have the Gong Bo Young, which sounds very similar to something you saw in the South Koreans, and this is going to be a superior shock trooper type. They have a lot more expenses. Will be able to take out other enemy troops relatively easy, but they do have a price tag. It's basically double that of one of these, you know, Buchong Su. And yes, of course, we will have 5 different vehicles. No helicopters. You know, very, very low tech the North Korean army is. The Gong Bo Young, which are, once again, your shock troopers, only have helicopters. Everything else has no options for helicopters. So it's going to be very hard to get a helo to play in with this particular game. So here's our Iglas. I'm wondering if this name will change, because that's the name of the rocket. They might just have Igla squads. I don't know. But they do come in 5 different vehicles at 15 points, and the highest vehicle being another anti-air vehicle is 25 points. This could be a power combination, and so could this. An anti-tank and an anti-air together for such a good price could be a power combination. We'll have to see. So here's our Geo Gok Die. I'm really sorry, people from Korea. I am so sorry. Really. And yeah, this is another type of shock trooper, 25 points, which makes it slightly more high quality. And this particular unit will come into 5 vehicles, including 1 helicopter. This will be one of the very few of these Korean units that can go into helicopters. Now we have the... Oh yes, and there's the second helicopter. So, you know, we have a lot of options for this particular type of shock trooper. And this is the 90s variant, in case you're being surprised here. Surprise! And, you know, it's got slightly better stats overall. And it's a nice way of splitting up the 1990 plus deck and the pre-1988, pre-1980 Category C decks. And once again, basically the same vehicles, not too much of an improvement on the vehicle front. We have the Jukwadai, which is another one of these anti-tank types. They're only 5 points, which is rather interesting. Oh, sorry, this isn't. This is your reservists. My bad. These are going to be the North Korean reservists, and they're only 5 points, which makes them one of the cheapest infantry in the whole game, which might make them insanely valuable. I've actually seen those guys deploy quite a bit, but yes, only can get 1 card of these. Kind of a problem for people who want to spam. Now we have our Strela 2, which is going to be an anti-air unit. Comes in 5 vehicles, and once again we do have the power combinations of anti-tank and anti-air, and we also have this one with anti-air and anti-air. Pretty powerful power combinations. Here's the Jeondai, which are going to once again be another type of unit. This is the Elite Special Forces type, and you'll want these guys to be, you know, cleaning up house, I guess would be the best way to say it. Very potent weaponry, very, very strong, have good stealth, medium optics, which means that's good enough to actually sneak up on units and kill them. And there's, I mean, 4 ways of deploying this particular variant, and there's also going to be a 1990 variant with, once again, slightly better stats in terms of the range they can hit with these weapons. And we have an extra vehicle. This is the MI4, which, you know, is kind of a hind. Actually, is a hind. Moving on to our support options, we have a BM-24. It's a rocket launcher. It, you know, it's not the one that we're used to seeing. The one that I'm used to seeing is it's got its rocket launchers being pulled by like farming equipment. It's always funny. And here's another different variant of it. I mean, these guys just march down North Korean squares like every day, according to the news. We have the Strela 1 with the BRDM-2 prototype. This is, of course, Russian tech. They get a lot of their goods from Russian, and you know, it's good for taking out helicopters. Now here's a unique unit to the Soviets. This is the Neva. You see a lot of these on the news. It's got the 4 rockets on the back. These things drive en masse. The stats are a little weird, and I'm pretty sure they're fake, but they're really good right now. It's an 80-point unit that has a 2,800 meter range against helicopters and 4,500 against airplanes. It would make it one of the best anti-air units in the game if this is in fact real and not just a mirage. But I feel like this is a mirage. Like, these stats cannot stand. Moving on, we have some artillery units. These are also able to provide that good smoke stuff, and it's got 15,000 meters of range. You know, it looks pretty old. These little clamps on the bottom here will dig into the dirt, and that'll act as a, you know, pushback resistance, so it goes like boom, and it goes boom, and these things will stop it from falling back. I don't know why in the actual graphic they don't show the clamps down. Usually they do. But yeah, that's artillery. And here's another artillery called the Tok Chan 130mm. Same basic concept, you know, slightly cheaper. Yeah, it's actually cheaper, but it's actually more accurate. And you're actually buying a high rate of fire when you get the non-122mm gun. So here's the Tok Chan 152mm, another artillery unit. They love them. The Koksan. Now keep in mind, North Korea was expecting to fight a ground war. This is a big part of it all. North Korea was expecting to fight a ground war, and they were expecting to have a navy that they'd have to fend off the Americans with. So they got a lot of artillery because they were really expecting to just shell out Seoul, Korea. So lots of artillery. And I shouldn't say should have and then, like past tense, because they still are. They do have some mortars. These are anti-infantry units. They're obviously going to be deployed close range. We'll get one shot by artillery, unfortunately, as will these ones. So yeah, these are kind of your spammy type units. You'll spam them around trying to weaken enemy units. They're very cost effective, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be. Here's your ZSU-23 for Shilka, which is just a copy of the Russian Shilka. About the same cost effectiveness. Not really too much of a new unit, and there's in fact no North Korean decals on this, so they haven't painted it yet. Maybe they will though. Here's a Type 80 Spag, which is you know, gonna be another one of these anti-air types. This one quite good, 2450 range. Despite looking like an old piece of crap, it's actually not too bad. It's 20 points, which is very cost effective, and you can deploy a lot of these across the field to provide all your anti-helicopter defenses, which I will guarantee you, helicopters will be a big deal. Specifically because less people are getting air spam. So in our tank area here, we have the Chon On Ma HD. No, that's H-O. Chi On Ma Ho. A light tank. This is going to be, you know, pretty comparable to a T-34 type-ish. It's about 3 times as powerful, and it's just going to be used in probably wiping out other light vehicles like tanks and infantry. Here is your Chon On Ma Ho 2, which is just slightly better. 50 points, slightly better armor, and as you scale up these, you're going to see even better armor all around. I think they just cloned this one. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to work on this one a little bit better, but maybe this is how it's supposed to look. It does look really cool, though. I like these little panels on the back that I'm guessing are solar panels, because we're in the future, people. No, I think it's some sort of camouflage or extra armoring. And, yeah. Pretty solid tanks. Here's a Type 82, developed by the Chinese, I'm almost certain. And it's a, you know, it's an old tank. It's 25 points. It's got ATGMs with pretty decent range. So these can be deployed en masse for a good amount of success. The downside is that, generally speaking, these guys have some pretty limited card numbers, which is, you know, rather unfortunate for these guys. This is the T-34, 10 points. It's a T-34. We've seen this. It's not new. They've gotten this from the Russians, or more specifically from the Eastern Germans. T-55A, once again, borrowed from the Russians, will stand toe-to-toe with other T-55As because it's a living clone. The one thing to note, though, is that the cost of this is 30 points, which is very low for this game. T-62Ds are very, actually dominant tanks, surprisingly. Their 10 front armor makes them really good. They're only 30 points, which is the same price as the T-55 at the moment, and they just have overall better stats, so this has to obviously be balanced. But for right now, this T-62D is a solid value, great tank, looks fantastic, can deal with a lot of situations. Now we have the T-72S, which is, you know, super heavily armored, 13 armor. Will go toe-to-toe with the T-80U if they brings along 3 friends, and yeah, not too much customization on this guy yet. We might see some in the future. And this is the T-90, yes, the T-90. We've seen the T-80, this is the T-90. It's a 160-point tank. It's a prototype for North Korea. It does not exist anywhere else but North Korea. You have to pick the Red Dragons Axis, this bad boy. It's actually a really solid tank. It's got very good ranges, and generally speaking, pro tip, have this guy behind, bring a whole bunch of these T-34s or T-62s and just pulverize the enemy. And that's all your Korean tanks. Recon units, you have the BRDM-1, which, you know, has an MMG on it. Not particularly useful. The BRDM-2 also shares a very similar face. It has the guns again. It's slightly more armored, but unfortunately it doesn't have the sort of optics. You can use these sorts of vehicles as hunters of other vehicles, but unfortunately, more often than not, they can just get rickrolled by things like random bombings and artillery, and they don't fit as much of a niche as they should. The M1 or M1992, I guess we'll call it, very, very long-range Saklos missiles, very, very good optics. This could be a very good unit for the Koreans. They could use it as recon and also as part of their AT network. Assuming that anti-tank networks actually become a thing in this game. If they don't, this will be a useless unit. If it does, it will be a very useful unit. So this is the BTR-40A. It's got a gun here that can shoot up into the anti-air, but it's mostly going to be used for shooting out infantry. Decent range on helicopters, but won't be able to take out any of the potent helicopters that you actually care about. So here's our Young Chao Dai, and they are most likely going to be used for recon and for picking off commands. They have exceptional stealth, so these guys are going to be able to move around the map relatively easy. They can be deployed by double helicopter, which can be problematic because with this kind of force you almost always want them to be deployed from a vehicle after all the madness has happened. So we'll have to see how that plays out. We have double helicopter recons here, including the MO500, which kind of looks like Channel 5 News weather broadcast. But they do have some decals on here for South Korea and some customizations, so that's always cool to see for when you spin and roll in. Looks like we have ourselves an amphibious vehicle here. This is the PT-76. We'll be able to do amphibious landings. You know, it's a recon. It's an ocean recon. That kind of signals of good if you're going to build this as a marine deck. And of course we have our standard guy, it's a Jeep. He has very, very good recon, not so good at stealth. That becomes kind of problematic. And it's also why this unit stopped being popular. It used to be really popular, especially in European escalation. But because of the stealth being so weak, it famed very quickly. So moving to the all-important vehicle category, we have our BMP-1, which, you know, not too much new of a unit, but it does have the Susong Po on it, which, you know, is kind of similar to what the BMP-1 uses on other nations. We have the Malatuka P, which is directly from the Russians. This is a Type 85 Susong Po, which has that Susong Po rocket I was just talking about. Good range, light armor, but, you know, it's an APC, so it's better than a Jeep. This is our BTR-152. It's going to carry infantry, no doubt. It has a gun on it to help with infantry. That's good. This is our BTR-50K. It's, you know, another one of these units that it's going to help with infantry. It's going to carry units. We're happy with it. And we get the K-36. Going to carry some types of infantry, and once again, 10 points. Good investment with this one. Will help in infantry battles, especially in the beginning. The BTR-60PB is a Russian cop-out, and yes, we do like this. As well, BTR-60PB, so we have the P and the PB here, and you know, I wish this was, oh sorry, it is amphibious. Let's just say this looks really amphibious, and it is very amphibious in fact. So we have the BTR-60A, which, you know, it's one of these motor cars. It's got a gun on it, so it can snipe out vehicles and whatnot. But it's really, really hard to use. It's got poor optics and poor stealth, so it becomes very unfortunate that it might get used in the front line, but probably not. More often than not. This is your Su-76M. It's got a, you know, little main gun on it. It's 10 points. I suspect that there's better tanks for 10 points than this, unfortunately. So I don't think there's a niche that this fills that, unfortunately, would get used. Here's your Su-100. Once again, it's 15 points. It's better than this by a lot. And I need to sneeze. Oh god. Whew. God, this flu is killing me. But anyway, back to this unit. You know, it's kind of neat. Unfortunately, once again, bad stealth, so it's going to be dead in the water very quickly. This is the ATS 100. It's got a very, very long barrel, very good range. More than likely, we'll see this one in action. The long range makes it a staying power. Now from the Ruskies, we have the TO-55 flamethrower tank. Might see some modifications on the actual decalis with this, but for now, it's just what we have in air-land battle, which is the TO-55. Here's the VTT-323. You know, it's another one of these vehicle infantry carriers. You pop out of his bum, and you come out. It's got guns on it, actually a lot of guns. Look at these. That's this MNG? Dear God. That's a lot. And this is the Malotuka variant of this. Just same thing with the Malotuka rocket on it. We have a Strela version. Keep in mind, these three are all infantry carriers, so these are actually pretty deadly when you think about it. This Strela has a Malotuka and a Strela on it, which makes it an AT-AA variant, which is interesting because I don't think it is actually useful. You want your AA to stay behind your line, you want your AT to be ahead of your line. This is just really weird. This is our ZIL 130, just an infantry carrier. You'll throw them away after you're done. And of course the ZSU 57-2, which is going to be a medium type-ish anti-air unit. I mean, it hits close enough to the helicopter range. If you can kind of sneak them in there, they'll be good. And they can also help with assaults with infantry. For some reason, I don't imagine this unit will ever be seen the light of day. It's nice that they're working on it. They're working to get better, but unfortunately, this type of unit doesn't seem to have a lot of role in the game. Helicopters are become more prevalent, but you won't use this top helicopters. You'll use your AAAs. So this is the MO500 rocket from the helicopter tree. It's got 20 rockets, 35 points. It's very easily spammable. I like it. Next up on our list is going to be the MO500LG, which has twin AGS, which are frag rounds, and this is going to be an anti-infantry helicopter. Rather interesting. It's basically the same thing, except with MG. The actual damage they deal is, you know, pretty good against infantry, but not so good against anything else. This is our Susong, which has the Susong Po rocket on it, and once again, cheap anti-tank options, and this is something that the North Koreans have that's very good. Great small helicopter customizations. These are the units that people want to use. This is going to be an infantry carrier, the MI-4, and we also have the MI-8 for that as well. This one has rocket pods to add a little bit of stun to enemy units. Now here's the MI-4 rocket. This thing is absolutely badass. It's got ridiculous numbers of rocket pods, and it's used for stunning in a pretty wide area. So good unit all around. This is the MI-8 gunship. Yes, there it is. The MI-8 gunship, it's got, you know, more AT options. It's a gunship, it's 40 points. That's a pretty damn good deal. I love North Korea's cheap air units. And yes, this one in fact has a big Saklos on it, as well as an MMG. And yes, rockets. So it's pretty solid helicopters here from North Korea. Very, very surprising. None of them are super expensive. None of them are super high quality. But they're all basically good enough. They just meet within the range to be able to joust with anti-air units. And they're all ones you can deploy very quickly and very cost-effectively to destroy tanks that are approaching without anti-air. So in the sky, we have the A-51 Nan Chang, which is going to drop some bombs. Because this thing has got more bombs than the Bible has got psalms. It's 85 points, that's quite expensive. You know. This is the Shen Yang, it's a napalm bomber. It's not as expensive. The Chinese variant of napalm bomber is actually much cheaper. And so people will probably be choosing the Chinese variant or this Shen Yang. But on the plus side, it has two auto cannons, which are located in the front here and in the here. And they can be used for doing a little bit of gun running as well as dropping the napalm. So you're going to get a bigger damage out of this burst. Up next we have the Shen Yang. That's an interesting name. It sounds very similar to the other Shen Yang. This is going to get very confusing very fast. The F6B Shen Yang. And this one's got infrared rounds. It's got, close range stuff. It's 40 points. It's easily spammable. You can get giant clumps of these to tag team up Tomcats. The range isn't so good. These are intended to dogfight or die. The Chen Jew is roughly the same concept. Cheap fighter, dogfight, or die. The J2B is going to be another one of these, and you're probably noticing a pattern. Cheap airplanes, but you get a lot of them. And if you can, get a lot of these at the beginning of a matchup, you can control the sky, which in the current game, not so hot, but maybe very powerful. Now here's one with some Sacklos rockets. 65 points is very cheap for Sacklos rockets. They'll do a run in, kill that tank, run out. And I'm guessing, yes, the same is true of this one. It's just more rockets on this bad boy. You're getting 4 Sacklos missiles compared to the 2 of the other, but you're also paying the price tag of an extra 20 for double the effectiveness. That sounds worth it to me. This is the MiG-23ML. This is available in Airland Battle. We also have the MiG-29 with its really super colorful, crazy stuff. This looks Japanese. There's like some kind of thing on the side here, which I can't really make out, unfortunately. It's going to be a pretty high quality fighter. It's got decent ranges on it, and yeah, it's going to be able to zoom in and hit a lot of planes. Where am I? I lost my place. MiG-29. Here we are. Here we are. The Su-25KS. Nope. Has a pretty badass bomb. It's 140 points, so it's going to do a lot of damage. But if you lose this guy, you're going to be a sad panda. Finally, on our airplanes, we have the Su-7BMK. Very snazzy colors. Feels like a Canadian plane to me, truthfully. The number of ways these guys steal our technology. And it comes with 32 rockets, so it's going to do a run-in, hit with 32 rockets, and then fly out. Moving on to our Marine tab. Our boats are going to be pretty interesting. We have the Najin, which is, has a nice little auto cannon on it. And yes, it does have 2 naval guns, so it will be able to do some pretty close range attacks. As well, it has these AGMs, yes, the radar missiles. So these 2 will actually fire simultaneously, and it'll do a lot of damage. This is definitely going to be a naval juggernaut. The Nan Chang has been outfitted with radar missiles, so it can actually attack naval units. Yes. And that's the blue ones on the bottom, I believe, are the radar-guided ones. Seems like everything naval is blue. And yes, I knew we had more. Here's the Komar. This is like a beastly favorite of mine. 30 points, you get some radar-guided missiles with good range. You put them behind your juggernauts and they just liquidate the enemy. I've seen too many people lose because of this. Here's the Chen Jew, which is an MLRS. And it's actually devastating right now. I hope they balance it so that this is not so powerful. Because right now it's really good. You use these along the coast. They have a really insanely high range. They do a lot of damage right now. Hopefully they'll make it so you have to move in closer. We have our Type 62 Shang guy. I guess they secretly wanted Shanghai, but it was copyrighted. And this is, going to be a unit that you're going to bring into the canals. It's got 2 anti-infantry type guns, and it'll be able to deal with aircraft. And it'll be devastating. On maps with canals, this will be a really important unit. You will need your own type of unit like this to counter this type of unit. I guarantee you, you will have a bad time if you cannot conquer the canals. Those are all the North Korean units, guys. My name is Troublemaker. I will be following up this video tomorrow sometime with my next on the ships, and I will also be covering a few other funny quirks of the game that are worth mentioning because they're going to be design types.